Hello, this is KeefCooks. I'm Keef, and today I'm going to show you how to make a proper steak and ale pie. Now, I say proper because these days a lot of people are confused about what a pie is. You can go in any pub in England, ask for a pie, and you'll get a ceramic bowl with stew in it and some flaky puff pastry on the top, and it's horrible. It's not a pie. A pie is a filling completely enclosed in pastry. So okay, confession, that means a pasty could be classified as a pie, and it clearly isn't. You know, it's like a turnover. It also means that lattice top pies don't count. But the important thing, pastry on the top, pastry on the bottom. Anything else, if there's no pastry on the top, it's a tart. If there's no pastry on the bottom, it's stew with some pastry on the top. And it's disgusting, and it breaks my heart when I see professional chefs trying to pass this off as a pie, because it's not. Anyway, rant over, let's cook. Okay, first thing to do is make the filling, because it can take a long time. If you haven't got a pressure cooker, it'll take you 3.5 to 4 hours to cook this until the meat is tender. If you have got a pressure cooker, it'll take half an hour. So ingredients, I've got a kilo of beef, I've got an onion, I've got 500 mils of chicken stock, I've got a 500 ml can of Guinness, and I've got a teaspoon of sage and half teaspoon of ground black pepper. Now I'm going to make one family size pie in this dish, which is about 20 centimeters across. Quick note on the beef, you can use pretty much any cut that you can get your hands on, but I prefer this. This is skirt, and it's actually quite a cheap cut. You can see it's quite heavily veined with fat and other stuff, collagen I think, which breaks down and gives you a gelatinous mouthfeel, which is gorgeous. If you can't get that, any old stewing steak or braising steak will do fine. And the ale, this happens to be Guinness. You could use any stout, porter, or what we call in the UK bitter. It doesn't really matter, but you know, the Guinness really gives it a dense, earthy flavour. I'm going to cook the filling in the pressure cooker, so I'm just pouring the Guinness and the stock and the sage and pepper. I'll get that on the boil, and meanwhile chop up the beef and the onion. So when I'm making a pie, I cut the meat into cubes that are about, I don't know, a centimetre, a bit over a centimetre cubed, and that's smaller than you would do for a stew, because you don't want massive big lumps of meat forming bumps in your pastry, basically. Okay, so all the meat is chopped up and bubbling away. I'll just prep the onion by peeling it. We'll just chop it into small bits. So we'll pop this in with the rest of the meat, bring it up to pressure, and then give it about half an hour, and then check whether the meat is falling to bits. If you don't have a pressure cooker, put it in a saucepan, bring it to the boil, put a lid on, simmer it for 3.5 to 4 hours. But you know, keep checking it to make sure it's not sticking. Now while the filling is hissing away in the background, I'm going to make the pastry. I'm using hot water pastry, not puff, not flaky. Those are abominations. Or in the words of Queen, no, 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 mamma mia, mamma mia. No, not puff pastry, not flaky pastry, hot water pastry. So I've got half a kilo of plain all-purpose flour with 1 teaspoon of salt added. I've got 250 millilitres of boiling water, and I've got 200 grams of lard cut into small chunks. So what we do is we'll just pop the water into a saucepan and add the lard. and we'll bring that to the boil until the lard has all melted. Now the lard's all melted into the water. I've stirred in the salt and the flour, and we just add the lard and the water a bit at a time. Okay, and then just tip it out onto your work surface and just give it a bit of a squeeze and a massage, just to make sure everything's nice and smooth. It's still quite warm, so be gentle with it, unless you've got asbestos fingers. Now we're going to wrap this in plastic film, and it needs to cool down to a little above room temperature. In fact, I'm going to slam it in the fridge because I'm in a hurry. Okay, the meat has had its allotted cooking time and it's nice and tender. I'm just going to stir in some flour to thicken up the gravy. You want to do this quite carefully, otherwise you'll end up with big lumps of flour in your gravy and that won't be nice. And just keep adding flour till you get a reasonably thick gravy, and then take it off the heat and let it cool down, and then we'll assemble the pie. Okay, now we're ready to assemble the pie. I've got my pastry nice and cool. I'm just going to take a bit under half of it, plop it on a floured worktop, some flour on the rolling pin, and we're going to roll it to about 3 or 4 millimeters thick. That's about 1/4 of an inch, and this is going to be the top of the pie. I've got my pie dish, I've buttered it, even though it's non-stick. I don't really trust non-stick things very much. I'm just going to cut a disc somewhat larger than the actual tin because we need extra pastry to form a seal and a nice crimp. I'll roll out the pastry for the bottom, and by the way, I've got the oven preheating to 230 Celsius. So that's about the right thickness. Now we'll take the tin and just gently plop the pastry in and push it into the edges, and then we'll trim off the excess, again leaving an extra margin for sealing and crimping it. And don't worry if you've got extra pastry, this will keep for about a week in the fridge, or 3 months in the freezer. Now I'll put the filling in and smoosh it around so it's nice and even, and that's plenty. Now we moisten the edge with cold water, and we place the top on and just press it around the edge with your thumbs to make sure it's all joined up, and raise the edge. I like to do a fairly ridiculous big crimp on these. Crimp it with you hold 2 fingers and push it in with a finger of the other hand. So there's the crimped pie, and now I'm just going to poke some holes in it with a skewer to let the air escape as it cooks, and glaze it. This is 1 beaten egg with a bit of milk whisked together, and just spread that smoothly all over the top. So that's fully glazed. Now I like to decorate my pies with herbs, so it's just sprinkle some parsley around, and then that goes in the oven for 40 minutes, but check after 30 because all ovens are different, and you know, yours might be hotter than mine. So, and here it is, our beautiful steak and ale pie. Now let's cut it into bits and try it. Okay, look at that. Is that fantastic or what? Well, I think it's fantastic. Mmm. Mmm. 'Cause, 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 'cause Yep, that's fantastic.